First, there are growing concerns over a potential humanitarian crisis on Ethiopia's border with Kenya. 10,000 Ethiopian refugees have arrived there in the past week. Another 30,000 have been displaced. It all started when soldiers killed at least 10 people in the border town of Moyale. The Ethiopian government claims the troops mistook the civilians for Oromo rebels and is taking measures to get the refugees back home. However, many aren't convinced. The region of Oromia, from where the refugees fled, has been gripped by anti-government protests since late 2015. These later spread to the Amhara region, leaving hundreds dead and scores arrested, prompting the government to declare a state of emergency last month. Well, the BBC's Emmanuel Ingunza is in the Kenyan part of the town of Moyale. Emmanuel.
Yes, indeed. And from here, we've been talking to some of the aid agencies which are providing help for the refugees, the big number of refugees who've crossed over the border, and they're telling us more families are coming over. Over the last 2 days, 100 families have come here to the Moyale town on the Kenyan-Ethiopian border, and they're living under really dire circumstances. We've seen one of the camps where there is not enough water, the sanitation is very poor, and there is a real fear that diseases could break out from here. And many of those who've been speaking in many of the camps that we've visited have been telling us of their fears. Here's a little more of what we found out here in Moyale.
20-year-old Guyo Jasso is lucky to be alive. He was shot twice last week. One bullet grazed his side and another passed through his arm. He's among thousands who have now fled across the border into neighboring Kenya in search of safety. Last Saturday, 10 civilians were killed by police in what Ethiopian authorities say was a botched security operation.
I was at the garage where I work repairing car tires. It is the Ethiopian soldiers who shot us. They started firing at people. They then shot me with 2 bullets.
So far, 40,000 people have been displaced by last week's violence. 10,000 of those are now living in these camps. Aid agencies are scrambling to register them and provide assistance.
Up to 20,000 people.
But they say each day, even more cross the border.
Overnight, this quite rural area has turned into a small town of refugees. Now, across those hills is Ethiopia, where the government has assured people that they can return to their farms, to their homes. But so far, many of them do not feel safe enough to make that short journey back.
The Ethiopian government says soldiers involved in the operation have been arrested and are being investigated. A team has also been appointed to oversee the repatriation of the refugees back home.
There is conducive atmosphere situation in their village, the village they have left on confusion, and there is an arrangement to welcome them, and there are elderly people, community councillors who are telling them to go back, and many of them have started going back, and it's time to go back.
But back at the camps, people are bracing themselves for a much longer stay. Dima Godana and her friends are laying down fresh foundations for their future right here.
It is not a foreign enemy, it is our government killing us. If that government is in power, we are not going back. But if this government is removed, we will go back. It is our land.
It's a sentiment that people keep repeating. They say though home is so near, peace and security in Ethiopia are so far.
Well, Emmanuel, the Ethiopian government said that it's taking measures so the refugees can return home. But from what we're hearing, they don't really seem reassured enough. What have they been telling you?
Yes, many of them, those who we spoke to, simply do not feel that they can take this government assurance and cross. It's just quite a short distance to get to Ethiopia, but many of them are starting to think how they can rebuild their lives here. You're talking about people who've left all their belongings, all their farms, all their cattle in Ethiopia and decided that this is where they want to begin their lives. And many of those who've come here to Kenya are women and children, and we've been told that around 600 600 women are pregnant. 26 of those have delivered in these really squalid conditions, but they simply do not trust that assurance because they say there is a political crisis in Ethiopia. There is uncertainty about the process that is going on of electing a new prime minister, and until they can get an assurance that they will be peaceful, they will be safe in their homes, many of them simply do not want to go back.
Emmanuel, I understand that there has been a key meeting today by the EPRDF, and part of that agenda was to look at the next in terms of leadership for the country. Just how dire is the political situation?
Well, I mean, the country is just in waiting. This meeting is very crucial because it will, in many ways, decide the future, the fate of the country. Many people are waiting to see who will become the new Prime Minister of Ethiopia, because this person, whoever takes up the mantle from Haile Mariam Desalegn, who announced his abrupt resignation just last month, will be tasked with ensuring, bringing the country together. This is a country that is hugely divided. We've seen the protests that have been going on over the last 3 or so years. And so the person who will be taking up the mantle will have that big challenge. And also within the party itself, there are wrangles. So it remains to be seen just whether they can overcome those wrangles that are ongoing within the party itself, to be able to choose a leader that will unite the country and bring it towards the path of democracy, the path towards freedom, where people can be able to show their grievances without having fear of being arrested.
Okay, Emmanuel Ingunza from Moyale, northern Kenya, thank you very much.